world of League of Legends is filled with powerful magic and unknown forces. Over Runeterra's millennia-old history, many mysteries have been discovered, explored, and some even fathomed by scholars, conquerors, and adventurers. But there are powers beyond human comprehension, older than time itself, and the very presence of existence is a thorn in the side of these beings. This is the history of the Void. In the beginning, there was nothing. When Runeterra first came into existence is unknown. The oldest events are preserved only in ruins and remnants of that bygone era. But there was a time before humans, before Runeterra, and even before the universe itself, and then there was nothingness. Nameless, dark, and empty. Consciousness resonated in this endless nothingness. It itself did not know how it came into being or what its purpose was, and so it slumbered constantly for an intangible time. One fateful day, a light awakened this consciousness. It was existence. On the endless black canvas around it, something emerged. It was bright, loud. It was there, and it was disturbing. The consciousness began to understand that it itself was a form of existence and that it must exist in some kind of space. It began to examine and analyze this newly created material universe with the goal of extinguishing the blinding light. The First Contact. About 9,000 years ago, the three siblings Avarosa, Cyrilda, and Lysandra thought to unite the wild tribes of the Freljord in northern Runeterra. After long struggles, including with the gods of the north themselves, they succeeded in their endeavor, but each sister paid a high price. In her search for powers that could help them, Avarosa managed to catch a glimpse of the endless void waiting to swallow the world, and she became deep in the absolute silence. But it was Lysandra who, independent of her sisters, made contact with the consciousness there. Blinded by the wrath of the Volibear, she lost herself in the practice of dreamwalking and encountered these powerful, unknown beings. The Watchers. They promised the magician near immortality for herself and her sisters, and the strengthening of their best fighter through otherworldly magic. And she agreed. She informed her sisters of this alliance, but they did not share Lysandra's enthusiasm. They wanted to stand as a strong, united people and not be under the rule of a dark foreign power. In addition, there was signs that the Watchers' influence was corrupting the world. The nights grew darker, the winds colder. They had to end this servitude, and so Avarosa and Cyrilda went to war against her own sister. The final battle took place on the bridge of the Howling Abyss in front of the Frostguard Citadel. But it did not go as the sisters and their forces had imagined. At the climax of the fighting, the Watchers themselves began to materialize. As beings without their own form and without a clear understanding of the things around them, they copied and imitated, growing into grotesque perversions that devoured and destroyed everything around them. They now became fully aware of the concept of existence. Suddenly, principles such as logic, time, temperature, and pain existed. First there was heat, but then suddenly there was nothing but cold. Lysandra used her powers to drain the magic and life force of nearly every living being in the battle, using this energy to seal the manifested Watchers beneath an indescribable thick layer of true ice. The Watchers weren't fully aware of what had just happened, but they understood. They had been betrayed. And so they began to adapt. From this point forward, they would send beings into the material world to serve as their eyes and ears, to understand and learn. The end of Icathia. At the height of the Shuriman Empire, it was 1,000 people of Icathia who grew increasingly discontented due to the injustice and discrimination. After an earthquake, Icathian sorcerers discovered something hidden underground that could serve them as a weapon. When Shurima finally went into battle against Icathia to quell the emerging rebellion, the people quickly realized they could not win, so they unleashed the unknown power. The mages opened a void rift, and in an explosion, violet energy poured from the opening, darkening the sky and raining down on the armies. As the ground continued to rip open, the power flowed endlessly into the material world, forming matter that sought to overwhelm all life it touched. Those who could not escape were trapped in cocoon-like structures and dissolved. The eruption of magic relentlessly destroyed the landscape. Icathia was penetrated by cracks from which destructive matter continued to pour, taking on tangled, pulsating forms. Like tendrils, these formations stretched across the battlefield and began to darken and harden. Attached to these structures were countless cocoons, which burst open and released viscous secretions as well as countless grotesque void creatures. Icathia's territory became a devastated wasteland corrupted by the void, and the creatures that now inhabited it sought to devour everything in their path. The Shuriman god warriors fought many battles, attempting to conquer the void. Some rifts were successfully closed, but this resulted in thousands of casualties. Other god warriors were confronted by the power of the Watchers themselves and lost their minds. The Ishtalian god warrior Nizuk also gathered the most powerful elementalists of Ishtal under their command, using a special weapon to seal the void creatures and close the original rift, but without success. The turning point in the conflict finally came when Horok discovered that the true horror of the void lay not on the surface or near the rifts, but deep beneath the Shuriman desert. Horrific monstrosities still slumbered in endless, tangled shafts and chambers, and the true extent of otherworldly power was revealed there. At intersections, the god warriors found void hearts, and with this knowledge were able to seal most of the void rifts. After this threat was largely defeated, the few surviving god warriors returned and received the title of the Sunborn, but they would never forget the horrors, the suffering, and all the things beyond human comprehension they had to witness. All of them were traumatized for eternity, and many would never be the same again, some even forgetting themselves over the course of their nearly immortal lives. Consume and adapt. The sealing of the rifts in Shurima and Icathia was a success for Runeterra, but for the Watchers it was hardly a setback. The void continues to corrupt the world of Runeterra from underneath. Many forms of Voidborn devour not just living beings and plants, but entire areas of land, disintegrating and analyzing them so that the Watchers can gain a better understanding of the material world. The Void creatures themselves are becoming increasingly advanced. While most are driven by nothing more than the urge to consume, some have developed other ambitions. Colonies have formed, such as the Zersai, and others wander alone, finding deeper meaning in their ability to analyze, evolving themselves this way or learn as much about this world as possible. Some have even begun to turn against their own creators. But it's not only the void creatures who adapt to the material world. Tales tell of humans who were drawn into the void and survived there. Corrupted, these creatures are neither human nor gave in to the void. Enhanced by this adaptation, they use their knowledge what lies beyond the veil to save and warn the world, or prepare it for the arrival of the void. While races wage war over resources, territory, and interpersonal conflicts, a horror beyond human imagination slumbers far from this world. The events of the Freljord are still kept secret by Lysandra and her Frostguard. Shurima crumbled to dust, and with it much of its knowledge, while the surviving god warriors descended into madness and had to be sealed away too. Only a few races have found ways to stop the void temporarily, but time is a resource the Watchers do not need. Their armies of void creatures grow endlessly and serve only one single purpose. And while these beings are dangerous but mortal, the question remains: how do you win a battle against something that existed in a nearly inaccessible place without a true form, even before the beginning of time?